Okay, thank you, sir. So, good morning and welcome to day 6 of our Skill Development Certificate course on data analysis. We are hoping that you are enjoying the sessions and gaining valuable skills in data handling and interpretation. Today, we are pleased to introduce Dr. Shweta Sharma, Assistant Professor in the Department of Botany at Maitreyi College, University of Delhi. Dr. Sharma earned her PhD from the University of Delhi South Campus in motor analysis. She is a recipient of CSIR Fellowship. She has published extensively in national and international journals. She mentored 18 students through structured internship program and contributed to collaborative publication with over 8 years of undergraduate teaching experience. Her area of instruction include biostatistics, molecular biology, microbiology, and some more. Her research interests span RNAi, molecular biology, and transgenic approach to plant viral resistance. Today, Dr. Sharma will deliver a lecture on the important topic of data representation, drawing from her rich academic and research background. We look forward to her insight in bridging biological data and analytical techniques. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Savinder, for your kind words. First, I would like to just share my slide so that just tell me whether my presentation is visible. So, am I visible and my presentation also you can see? Can you please confirm?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. I hope it is okay now.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, and I'm audible also.
Perfectly, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. So, thank you very much to Zakir Hussain Delhi College for giving me this opportunity to be a resource person in this very informative certificate course. I'm sure the students are gaining valuable information with the enriched lectures that they are attending. So, dear students, we are into our sixth day of this, series of lectures that you have been attending, and as you all know, today I will be presenting a lecture on the representation of data. Okay, so as you can see, the entire talk would be divided into three parts. First, I would very briefly tell you what are the importance. Importance means significance. What is the significance of data visualization? Why at all we need to visualize our data into different formats, right? The second part, we will be dealing with the diagrammatic representation of data. What are the different ways available by which you can represent your data in the form of diagrams? And the third part would be dealing with the graphical representation and the types of graphs that you can draw your the data that you have, you can represent in the form of different graphs. Okay, so as you all have been you must have experienced that in your practical classes you do certain experiments and you collect data, right? So this data is usually in the form of numbers, right? And in your practical classes also you have been asked to draw the based on this data you have been asked to draw graphs, and you must have encountered different type of graphs. Like bar diagram is very easy, you must have drawn that also. So you know that by simply representing your data in the form of different diagrams, you are able to visualize it much more better, and also it becomes much more informative. Okay, So these
Ma'am,
are the these are
ma'am,
some of the
ma'am, so
sorry.
sorry, sorry, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, ma'am. There is one correction. Please address all the participants because there are many faculty members, research scholar, and scientists as well.
Okay, okay, okay,
Okay.
okay. Thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
thank you.
Although most of them are undergraduate student, but
Okay,
yeah, there are some participants who are research scholar, our seniors, and scientist, PG student as well.
okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Dr.
Sorry for
Savinder.
the interruption.
Uh, okay, so yes, I welcome all the faculty members and senior scientists who are a part of this lecture. So what I was telling you is what are the importance, what is the significance, what are the advantages you can say of representing your data in the form of diagrams or graphs. First of all, it as you can see, I have listed 4 or 5 points, but these are I mean, you can add upon this as you go on attending the lecture. You must get an idea, and you can also add more points to it. But first of all, you must understand that just by looking at numbers in the form of a table, say you can represent your data in the form of table also, but that becomes very dull and mundane. If you represent that table in the form of a visually appealing graph in the form of say a pie chart or a donut chart, then it becomes much more visually appealing, and it relieves the the dullness of just seeing the number. Okay. Second point is it allows very easy comparison. So once you draw say a bar graph or simply a pie chart, as I was saying, so it gives you, just by looking at the diagram, or just with one glance, you can do a very easy comparison of the different data points, which one is the highest data point, which one is the lowest. So it gives you a very easy comparison. Third is that it saves a lot of time and effort. It means that by just by looking at the diagram, you can have important inferences in just a quickly, very quickly. Fourth is it facilitates the location of various statistical measures, and it also helps you in establishing trends. For example, you can have a idea with the help of a frequency curve. You can look at the peak of the curve and can get an idea what is the mode of the data, what is the mean value of the data. So various statistical measures mean such mean, median, mode. You can get an idea just by looking at the graph, and it can also help you in establishing trend, whether this is an increasing trend or a decreasing trend. Okay. And fifth, and which is the most important part, is that once you have done a research and you are trying to communicate the research to a reputed journal publication, then representing your data in the form of various graphs and diagrams, it becomes an integral part. So for your for the purpose of understanding the preparation of a manuscript and representing data in a manuscript, this becomes a very integral part. Okay, so I'm sure you must have understood what are the various advantages of representing your data visually. Okay, so we start with the raw data. I hope you all understand raw data means just the numbers, the data that you collect after completing your experiment. But that data is an unordered array, and it is the usefulness of data is very, very limited. You just by looking at that unordered array of data, you will not be able to arrive at any conclusion, or you cannot draw comparisons. So you have to follow certain steps which are there for analyzing that raw data. So there are 5 or 6. These are the major steps, and there are various integrities involved in each of these steps. So I'm not going into the details, but I'm just giving you an overview of how you can analyze, starting from an unordered array, how you can come at conclusion. So just by using an unordered data, you are not able to you will not be able to conclude anything until you organize that data nicely, and also you analyze the data. You do certain hypothesis testing, do statistical analysis, and then only you will be able to get a useful result. So first step in analyzing the raw data is to summarize the data, which also includes the organization of data into a particular format. Usually it is in the form of either you can arrange the data in an ascending manner or a descending manner. And the most simple way, usually what is followed is ascending. Ascending you can represent. So you summarize the data, first of all arrange the data nicely, and then you can conduct the exploratory analysis, which include the basic descriptive statistics. So I hope you understand descriptive statistics, which means the various statistical measure which describes the characteristics of the data, which includes the measures of central tendencies, mean, median, mode. You calculate what are the various measures of dispersion. You calculate what is the variation, the standard deviation, and what is the maximum point, minimum point. So all the descriptive basic descriptive statistics you can do. Third step, you can represent your data in the form of diagrams or graphs. You can also depending upon the type of data, you can choose what are the various diagrams or graphs you can make, so that I will be talking about in detail this point. Next step is, once you have drawn diagrams, represented your data, you will get a rough idea of the trends that you are seeing. Then you can start proposing your hypothesis. In the upcoming lectures, I'm sure you will be dealing with how to propose a null hypothesis, and then you will do various statistical analysis to test the hypothesis, like significance testing, t-test, chi-square test, correlation, regression, and finally, with the help of the results of these significance test or correlation test, you will be able to interpret the result and arrive at a conclusion. Okay, so just by looking, this is a very simplified way of telling you how, starting from a raw data, that is from an unordered array, you can systematically reach up to the interpretation of the data. And you can see that visualization also is an integral part of the this analysis flowchart. Okay. So with this brief introduction, I come to the actual, the actual topic, which is the representation of data. So there are two major ways of representing the data: diagrammatic and graphical. You can also, tabular representation is also a part of representation, which I will be, separately. I have not mentioned here, but in as I go on explaining the different type of diagrams and graphs, the preparation of table also I will be talking about. So tabular representation is also a major part, but since I was more trying to focus more on the visual representation, so majorly I'm focusing on diagrammatic and graphical representations. So I will start with the first part, or you can say the first major type of representation, which is the diagrammatic representation. So the diagrams are, as I just told you, that it is a form which is visual attractive visual representation, which is helpful in drawing quick correlations, quick comparisons, quick inferences. It helps you to compare two different data sets in a single, just by looking at the data, you will be able to compare which data point is highest, which is lowest. It also helps in simplifying a very complex data. And if a very complex table is given to you, but if you are able to visualize it in the form of diagrams, it simplifies to a certain extent, not entirely, but yes, to a certain extent, it helps you to simplify the data. So there are certain points that should be considered for representing the data in the form of diagrams. First of all, it must be geometrically accurate. It must be ensured that the on the x and y axis, the scales that you are taking, these are appropriate, and usually it should be in the multiples of like 2, 5, 10, and also depending upon the range of the data, that the scale should be selected depending upon the range of the data. Otherwise, the diagram becomes too much. It is not able to represent the data correctly. Either it is very short or it becomes very very lengthy if you are not taking the scales properly, right? So the scale should is a very very important point. Also, each diagram must have a short but self-explanatory title, which must be written mostly on the top of the diagram, and each of the x and y axis also should be properly labeled. As I said, it must be proportionate. You can use different colors, patterns, and shades to represent the various components of the diagram. It is the basic essence of the diagrammatic representation that the different components should be represented either with the help of different colors or patterns, so as to you are able to differentiate the various colors and patterns just by looking at it. Also, if you are using different colors and patterns, you should give an appropriate index for easy identification of each of the different sectors of the diagrams that you are representing. Also, depending upon the type of variable, the number of variables, the complexity of the data, it is very, very important to choose a suitable type of diagram, right? Which diagram is most suitable for your data? That is very important. Otherwise, the exact, the essence of the diagram gets diluted if you are not using a suitable diagram. So, a quick classification of diagrammatic representation. Majorly, there are three major types of diagrammatic representation, although there are much more. I'm not saying that this is an exhaustive list, but these are the three major types. There are other diagrams also, but these are the major types which students encountered during their coursework, so I'm focusing more on these. So these are line diagram, bar diagram, and pie charts. Okay. Within this bar diagram, you can see there are further types that you can encounter or can be useful for you to represent your data. That is simple bar diagram, divided bar diagram, percentage bar diagram, and multiple bar diagram. So starting with the line diagram, it is the most simple type of diagram. In this, as you can see in the diagram, which is shown here, x-axis and y-axis, you have two labels you can see here. So x-axis, as you can see, this line diagram is for the income of 10 workers. So here on the x-axis, the variable is represented. So the workers, the number of serial number of worker, that is the variable which is represented here on the x-axis, as you can see here, and the individual frequencies, that is the income of each of these workers, are represented on the y-axis. So variable is on the x-axis and individual frequencies of the variable is represented on the y-axis, and each of the frequencies is represented with the help of vertical lines. Okay, so that is why this is called as a line diagram. As you can see, it is very similar to bar diagram. Only difference is that in case of bar diagram you have rectangular bars, and here it is a simple line which is used to represent each the frequency of each of the variable. Also, I would like here to mention that as I was saying, that the scale of the y-axis should be taken proportionately. So you can see here, since the data range was from somewhere from 200 to 550. Okay, so appropriately it is the scale is divided into units of 50-50 each. So likewise, you can represent your data. So for practice, I am giving you a small data set. This is actually the data which is part of collected by our students only as part of the small projects that they had done under the this paper. So area under forest cover in Delhi. This was this is a kind of secondary data that is collected by the student through the online resources that are available. So this is the area under forest cover in Delhi from 2009 to 2019. As you can see, for every year, the area is represented as square kilometers. Okay, and the same data, if you draw line diagram, it will look, you all can practice also with this data set. I am giving you a drawn line diagram, and as you can see, this diagram looks slightly different from the one that I have shown you earlier. The earlier one was, the lines were vertical, right? But here you can see that the lines are horizontal. So this is also a point to be considered, that the line diagram can be drawn vertically as well as horizontally, and it depends upon the range of data. And if the range is, you can see the numbers are quite big, right? So it if you represent it horizontally, it gives you a much better picture, but it can be drawn vertically as well. It is your perspective, which way you want to represent. So here you can see on the x-axis you have the frequencies, and on here you have the variables are represented here, and the frequencies are here, and you can see that with you can just by looking at the diagram, you can quickly say that the highest forest the area under forest cover was in 2019, right? This is how you are going to represent your data in the form with the help of a line diagram. Okay. Coming to the second type, this is the second type is a bar diagram. So bar diagram, as I have mentioned earlier also, this is one of the most commonly used diagrams to represent the statistical data. And most of you must have used this diagram in schools also. I am sure in class 11th and 12th you must have encountered this diagram, so you must be familiar with bar diagram. This is also called as the one dimensional diagram. Why? Because here only the length of the bar, which represent the frequency of the variable, length is important and not the width. Okay, so that is why it is called as a one-dimensional diagram. As I was mentioning for line diagram, that it can be drawn in a vertical or horizontal manner. Same is true for bar diagram also. It can also be drawn in the form of horizontal bars or vertical bars. So there are few things that you must be careful about while drawing bar diagram. First of all, you must make sure that there is uniform distance between each bar that you are representing. The bars should not be close like one after the other without any gaps. It should not be there. There should be distance between each the rectangular bar that you are representing, and that distance should be uniform throughout your diagram. Okay, and second thing is that the width of the bar should also be uniform throughout your diagram. So here is a small data set which represent population segregation on the basis of origin of individual in a small part of area. This is, again, is collected by our students. So this is a bar graph showing number of individual from different states of India in a particular locality. You can see UP, different Delhi states, and Haryana. So, with the help of the bar diagram, you can represent the frequencies of each of these states in the form of bar, and you can see that uniform distance is there between each bar, and the width of each bar is also uniform in the entire diagram. Okay. So, coming to the different types of bar diagram which are available, as I already gave you the classification. So, the first is the simple bar diagram. Simple bar diagram, it is used to represent only one variable. Okay, it again, as I told you, vertically as well as horizontally. Also, both positive and negative values can be represented. So above the x-axis and below the x-axis, I'll be talking about the positive and negative when I come to the graphical representation part. But both positive and negative values can be presented. Here also only length of the bar is taken into the account and not the width. And as I said, width of the bar and gap. So this point is already covered. So same data that I used for drawing the line diagram. Again, the same data, area under forest cover in Delhi for the year 2009 to 19. And in this, in a similar manner, you can replace now the lines with the rectangular bars. Okay, so you can see that only difference is the rectangular bars are used here for representing the individual frequencies of each year. So again, this is in horizontal manner. This can be drawn vertically also. It is your way of representing. So you can use this data for practicing drawing a bar diagram. You can see that individual bars are having uniform distance, and the width is also same. Plus the other thing that I have already talked about, that is the scale should be taken care of. So next is the divided bar diagram. So from here you can get new type ways, because till now I think you were familiar about these diagrams. So now 2-3 types you will be encountering which is new to you. So first is divided bar diagram. So the difference between a simple bar and divided bar is that it is there in the name itself. So each bar is divided into, or you can say subdivided into various parts, right, which correspond to the values of different components of the same variable. Okay, so one variable, if it is having different components, then you can use a single bar, and different components of the same variable can be represented as different sectors of the single bar. Okay, so since the bar is divided into different parts, that is why this diagram is called as divided bar diagram. So with the help of this diagram, I will show you how it looks like. But with the help of this diagram, the total of the variable as well as all the variables plus all the components of each variable can be shown with the help of divided bar diagram. So you can say that a complex data can be represented in a simple manner with the help of this diagram. This is what I was saying when I was telling you that a complex data can be simplified by visual representation. Okay, so you can see here. So first of all, see the diagram that I am showing here. So here you can see that there are various bars, 4 bars you can see, and each of these bar is subdivided into various parts. Okay, so these are as you can see, these are 4 different teams which are representing, and each team is further, each team is a variable. And now you can see as team 1, the bar is further divided into subparts, and these subparts represent the different periods. This is just for representation purpose. I will show you an actual data and how you can draw a divided bar also. So sometimes you will encounter the divided bar as component bar or stacked bar diagram also. It is called as stacked bar diagram because the different components are stacked one above the other. It can be used when the total number of values of variable is small. And as I said, that the subparts, one thing means one limitation is there, that the different, although you can represent a single variable into different subparts, but the different subparts do not have a common base, right? As you can see here, for example, the orange subpart, you can see the base is not common. So sometimes the comparison of different components becomes slightly difficult. Okay, so there are advantages but limitations also of every bar diagram. So the limitation of this is, as the components do not have same base, so the comparison of different components become difficult, but you can see the relative increase or decrease in component among the different variables. That is very, very prevalent or easily visualized. So here I'm representing another data for your practice. You can use this data for practicing. This is again a part of a small project work that was done for the paper. Distribution of rainfall, again data collected from online resources only. Distribution of rainfall in millimeter in different months of a year in Delhi from 2009 to 2013, and the months you can see from January to December. So as you can see, there are different components, so it is slightly complex data. So if you go on representing it by simple bar, it is not possible, right? So you will have to, so that this is what I was saying, that for different type of data, you must use the most suitable diagram. Then only it becomes much more significant. So if you use divided bar to represent such complex data, then you can easily compare the different variable. So you can see on your right hand side a divided bar diagram that has been drawn using this data. And for every year, okay, every year is on the this side, and the frequencies are represented with the help of bars. Okay, now the bars are further, for example, for the year you can say 2011, because you can see the longest bar and you can see the different subparts of the bar also clearly. So 2011, you can see different this is a single variable, and each of this is divided into different parts, as you can see by colors, and these colors represent the different rainfall, distribution of rainfall in different months. Okay, so it becomes very easily, so you can say the such complex data can be simplified in the form of a simple divided bar diagram. And just by looking at the bar diagram, you can see that the brown portion is the most prevalent, brown and blue. So you can see that these are the months of July and August where the maximum rainfall has been received, and also the gray portion, which is the September. So July, August, and September. Rest of the months are smaller, and you can, just by seeing at the graph, you can say that the maximum rainfall has been observed in 2011. right? And within that also, the months also you can get. So yeah, just by looking at just by giving it a glance, you can draw crucial inferences, like which year was which year we received maximum rainfall, and out of that also which months we received maximum rainfall, right? So this is the utility of a divided bar diagram. I hope it is clear till now. Okay, so I'm moving on to the third type, which is the percentage bar diagram. This is also a very useful bar diagram where, as the name suggests, percentage bar diagram. So this is a bar diagram, but the term percentage here means that every bar, the length of the bar is kept equal to 100. The percentage means 100. So the length of the bar is kept equal to 100, and then the each bar is further divided into various subparts, right? So the only difference, so you will see that this is similar to the divided bar. Yes, it is similar to divided bar in the manner that each bar is divided into various subcomponents. Means the various parts of a single variable can be represented in the form of a bar. But the difference is that here, since the length of the bar is 100, then the various part is also represented as a percentage, not the actual value, but in the form of a percentage. I'll tell you how to do this. So this diagram is also called as percentage divided bar diagram. Okay, percentage divided bar diagram or percentage stacked diagram, right? So just see, just look at the diagram that I'm showing you here. Can you see that all the bars are of equal length, which was not the case with the divided bar? Let me just give you a quick look. You can see here divided bar, but the lengths are all different, right? So this is the major difference between divided bar and percentage bar diagram. Here the length of each of the bar is equal because we are taking the length as 100, and then each value of each of the component is converted into a percentage and then represented in the form of a bar diagram. Okay, so yes, it is prepared in a similar manner as that of a divided bar diagram, but only difference is that the maximum value is taken as percentage. And here also you can see that it gives you a very good idea of the relative changes in various components, so you can see that the blue portion, you can see the relative change in the blue portion. I will give you an actual data and graph also, but this is just for the representation purpose. So again, it is the distribution of rainfall, same data that I used earlier, and you can see that the portion with blue is changing significantly in different years. Also the portion in brown, so you can get an idea which month we received the maximum rainfall and which year. The This diagram is useful when you are trying to see the relative change in different components. And the length of the bar is equal, so maximum rainfall you can get, but at a closer look. But this would be very, very useful in getting an idea of the relative change in various component of each of the variable. So again, the same data that I have used, that is the distribution of rainfall. Then you can draw a percentage divided bar diagram with the help of this data. So you can see that the each of the bar are now of equal length because each of the bar is representing a value of 100%, right? And then, for example, I will tell you with one of the bars, say 2011. So if you take 2011, what you have to do is first take it as 100 and then convert, say, January 1.24 into percentage, and a simple percentage. So total value you have and January value you have. So simply convert it into a percentage and then draw it on the graph. The percentage value you have to represent on graph. So in a similar manner, each month is converted into percentage and represented on graph. So you can again see quickly that it is the month of August where the maximum rainfall has been observed, and that too in 2009 and 2011 maximum August rainfall is more. In case of 2010, the month of September showed maximum. So relative component can be compared easily with the help of a percentage divided bar diagram. Okay, so this is the utility of percentage divided bar diagram. Now coming on to fourth type of the bar diagram, which is the multiple bar diagram. As the name suggests, multiple bar diagram means you are using more than one bar. So why? Because when you are using more than two bars for a particular period of time, right? So this is a different way to summarize the data. So in a particular period, if you have more than two components, then you can use single bar to represent each component and draw them in a cluster close together. And then the second period, before the second period, you can give a considerable gap so that you can have a comparison between the different bars of each period. Okay, so this type of diagram is also called as a compound bar diagram or a cluster bar diagram. This is preferred when a comparison between two or more variables. So whenever you are trying to do a comparison between different variables, multiple bar diagram can be used. Again, very simple. This also you must be familiar with. So the advantage of using multiple bar diagram is that it helps in comparison of values of different variables in a set in a glance. Okay, also it must be kept in mind that the different bars of one set must be represented in different colors or shades. Okay, then only you will be able to have easy comparison. Also, the same colors should be followed throughout the diagram. So every set will have the same color of bars, and then with the help of the different lengths of the bar, you will be able to do a quick comparison. So again, practice data set. Here, the number of rainy days per month in Delhi, that is between 2009 to 13. So again, a set of data which is collected by our students only. So what they did was, during these 5 years, they collected what were the number of rainy days per month from May to September. Okay, you can see that here now it is a different way of representing. Earlier what we did was we used every year, and the different months were used as a different component of the same bar. Okay, so but here what we have done, again the different years are used as the periods, as you can see on your right, and each of the month is represented with a different bar. Okay, so you can say that this is a different way of representing the same data, right? So different months is represented using different bars. For example, you can see that May, June, July, August, and September with different bars. And for each period, you have a set of 5 bars. Okay, and then for again next year, you have a set of 5 bars. And with this, you can do a very easy comparison between um, which year the rainfall, the number of rainy days per month was highest, and then among these also per month also you can compare, like August you can compare for every year, July you can compare for every year. So again, multiple bar diagram is also a quick, easy to draw, quick to compare, and also you can say that a complex data can be simplified also with the help of multiple bar diagram. So you can easily draw different periods as a set of bars, right? And each bar representing different component in the same variable. So This is what we call as the multiple bar diagram. So, what are the points to be considered? That also I have told you. So, I hope this is also clear. Now, coming to the third major type of the diagrammatic representation, that is the pie diagram. Pie diagram, as most of you are familiar, it is a very easy way to and very attractive way to represent your data. It is pie diagram is a circle which is divided into several sectors. Okay, now the area of the different each of these sectors represent different components. Now this area of the pie diagram, it is in proportion to the data that you want to represent. As you can see here, this data is the circle is carefully divided into various sectors, and each of these sectors, they are representing the distribution of major soils in India in the form of a percentage. So you can see the red soil, the alluvial soil, black soil, and the with the help of this you can say you can get the maximum value, that is the red soil 27%, alluvial soil which is 30%, and the minimum value also you can get, that is 1%, which is the hill soil. So you can draw easy inferences, right? You can see the sector wise or the component wise distribution also with the help of the pie diagram. Okay, now how to draw it? It is also very very simple. So pie diagram is always drawn on a percentage basis, not an actual the absolute data that is given, that is not used, but the percentage is used because you are taking it as 100%, and then percentage wise representation. Also the percentage is used to calculate the degree of the sector of each of the the sector within the pie diagram that you are trying to represent. So first you have to convert the value into percentage, and then these percentage are used to calculate the corresponding degree of sectors in each of the circle. So there is a simple formula to calculate the angle of a subsector, right? So as you can see, degree of the subsector is equal to component part divided by total into 360 degrees. So total is 360 circle. So if you calculate, sector wise, you can use the simple formula for calculating the sector. Also, one limitation of pie diagram is that if you have too many components, then pie diagram will not be useful, because each sector will be very 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 fine lines. Then that pie diagram will not be as much informative as when the number of components are smaller. Okay, so when the components are very large, then it becomes difficulty. But otherwise, if in with limited components, you can easily draw a pie diagram with the help of for representing your data. So again, a small set of data collected by our students, survey responses for effect of lockdown on physical health. So there were various options, and the number of respondents for each options we have collected. So this can be very easily represented with the help of a pie diagram. So you simply have to convert it into percentage, right? Percentage, and then using that percentage you calculate the degrees and then draw the circle. You can draw it manually also, and with the help of various softwares also. I will briefly tell you about, because I know that you will be having a different session, a lecture on how to use softwares. So there also you will be having a detailed discussion on this. But Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, these are very simple softwares where you can simply feed your data and get the diagrams. But I'm also telling you the ways to manually draw it. because you must have an idea. Also, you can see that the different sectors should be represented by different colors. You must have an index for the colors as to what each color is representing. You can see here. And sometimes students make a mistake that they represent here the degrees, right? You don't need to represent the degree here, you just need to write the percentage value. The degree is used to draw the sector. Okay, never write the sectors here. I mean the degrees here, but only you have to write the percentage here. Okay, so by simply using these methods, you can represent your differently complex data into simplified, visually appealing diagrams, which can be used for drawing quick inferences. So that was our diagrammatic representation part. Before starting graphical representation, should we give a break here?
Yes, ma'am. 5 minute break, ma'am.
5 minutes break we
Yeah.
can have.
Meanwhile, participants can mark their attendance in the chat box. And if you have joined through the YouTube, you can mark your attendance over there as well.
So let us start with the second part. I hope
Yes, ma'am. We
I'm
can start.
presenting well. It is visible.
Yeah, ma'am. It's visible.
Okay, okay. So let us move on to the graphical representation part. Here I will be talking about the various graphs that you can draw. But first, let me tell you a few, important points. Sorry, slides are not visible. Should I share again? Not visible. Okay, no problem. I will stop presenting and present once again. Is it visible now? Yes, I'm sharing my screen only. Um, Let me try once again. Let me try once again. Because earlier also I was sharing my entire screen only. So let me see what is the problem. Is it visible? Let me go to the screen first. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Now it's visible.
Visible? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I was just telling you that we'll be talking about different type of graphs, but just let me tell you a few important points related to the graphs. So as you know, a graph is a collection of points and lines which are represented in one dimension. With the help of dots and lines, you are able to represent the values of different variables. The way diagrams are different from graphs is that the graphs are they necessarily have to be drawn on a graph paper, okay, which is not the case with the diagrams. And also the values are plotted with reference to the axis, x and y axis, and there are various quadrants within the graph that I will be talking about. So first of all, the data has to be grouped into frequency distribution. That is, the number of times a value is occurring has to be represented in the form of a table. And once that frequency distribution is done, then the various graphs that is available for you to represent your data in are histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve, and cumulative frequency curve. I'm not saying that these are the only graphical representations, but I am focusing most on what is of use for the undergraduate students. There are many more ways which are there. So for making a graph, the most common graph that is used is the Cartesian graph that you have been using since your school times. It has a uniform scale on two axes, x and y axis, that I have already shown you the axis, but here we will be using it in different form because their x-axis was only used for showing the variable, but here that also will be used for the in a scale wise manner. So raw data, as I was telling you in the beginning, it is first sorted, grouped, and ordered. Right, it is ordered in ascending or descending order. Then the you have to first, as I was saying, that frequency distribution table has to be made. So there are various things that has to be first calculated, like number of classes, class interval, class limit, midpoint, and frequency that has to be calculated and tabulated. So there are various ways for calculating each of these. So first, the number of classes. So you have arranged your data. So we started with raw data, unordered array. We have arranged it in an ascending order, right? Now this data has to be converted into a frequency distribution. Okay. So first thing that you need to calculate is the number of classes. So there is a simple rule called as Sturge's rule that can be used for calculating number of classes. So the number of classes should be between 6 and 30, which is like not too less classes or not too many classes, because again your data will not be represented proportionately. So around 15 should be optimum, and you can use this rule, which is C, where C is equal to 1 plus 3.322 log n, where C represent the number of classes. And first you have calculated the number of classes, then you have to calculate the class interval. That is, for each class, what is the interval, that is what is the range that you have to give. So class interval is again calculated using a simple formula. I is equal to L minus S divided by C, where I is the class interval, L is the largest value of your data, S is the smallest value of data, and C is the number of classes. So number of classes we have just now calculated using Sturge's rule. Largest value you can get from your ordered data, largest value, smallest value, and you can get the value of I, which is class interval. So you have got number of classes, how many classes, and what should be the interval of each class. So now you can easily make your different classes. So in this way you can convert your simply ordered data into a frequency distribution. Okay, now the other term that will be useful for you is class limit. Class limit is the boundaries of each of the class, that is the lowest and the highest value which is included in a particular class. So lower limit is represented by L1, upper limit is represented by L2. Okay, lower limit is L1, upper limit is L2, and then again another value that will be useful for you to draw certain graphs is mid value or midpoint. Midpoint is very simple, it is the central point of the upper and the lower limit. Okay, so it is simply calculated by adding upper and lower limit and dividing it by 2. So it is an average of upper and lower limit, so that will give you the midpoint. For example, if 11 and 12 are the upper and lower limit, then you can simply use this formula to calculate the midpoint. Okay, so for class 10 to 20, 10 is the lower limit, 20 is the upper limit, and you can see. So the data can be, you can have a continuous variable and discrete variable. I hope by now you are very clear with all your 5 days of lecture, what is a continuous variable and what is a discrete variable. So you know that for a continuous variable you do not have any gaps in the data. So for continuous variable, the method that is used for representing class limits is called as exclusive method. Sorry. Sorry. Here the upper limit of a class is the lower limit of the succeeding class. So there is continuity in the data. Okay, for example, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40. So here you can see the upper limit of 10 to 20 classes, 20 is the upper limit, and for the class 20 to 30, the lower limit is 20. Okay, so there is no gap or no data point is missing. So such kind of class limits are called as making the method of making such limits is called as exclusive method. Here the upper, so I'm just repeating because it is slightly complex to understand. Upper limit of the class is the lower limit of the succeeding class, so it is considered in the next class. So that is why there is no gaps, and this exclusive method is used for continuous variable. Okay, and here no new class boundaries have to be defined. But in case of discrete variable, you know that discrete variable means 2, 3, 4, means there is gap in the data. So here inclusive method is used. Here the upper limit is included in the same class. right? Like 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39. Here, the upper limit 19 is used or it is considered within the same class and not in the other class. So there is a gap between the two classes. In this case, we need to define as you can see that there are gaps, है ना? Because it is for discrete variable and thus there are no continuous data. So the class limit will be like this. But when you use such kind of class limits for drawing your graphs, then it would be difficult because there is gap between the data. So for this case, to overcome this, you have to define new class boundaries. Okay, and class boundaries are calculated by subtracting or adding the half of the difference between the lower limit of the first class and the upper limit of the next class, right? So for example, here 19 is the lower limit of the first class, 20 is the upper limit of the next class. So the difference is 1. Half of 1 is 0.5. So what you have to do, you have to add 0.5 in 19 and you have to subtract 0.5 from 20. So it will become 19.5, 19.5 each. So it will become continuous and you can draw it easily on the graph. Okay. So this is the way to understand inclusive and exclusive method. Now coming on constructing the graph. So construction of frequency graphs is done on the graph paper. The graph sheet is divided into 4 quadrants, that is 1, 2, 3, and 4. The horizontal and vertical lines that separate the quadrants, you know, that are x-axis and y-axis. Okay, so the horizontal line is called as abscissa and the vertical line is called as ordinate. So it is abscissa and ordinate. They cross the abscissa and ordinate, they intersect at a point which is called as point of origin or O, and they together, when you represent the abscissa and ordinate values together, they are called as the coordinates of that particular point. So here you can see all the 4 quadrants of a graph. So you can see that in quadrant 1, the abscissa and ordinate, both the values are given here. Plus and plus here. So this will be much more easily represented in the form of. So you can understand here much more easily. So this is a typical Cartesian graph, right? This is the x and y axis, the abscissa, and the ordinate. And here you can see the 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here in quadrant 1, the x-axis value as well as y-axis value will be in positive. In quadrant 2, the x-axis value will be in negative and y will be in positive. In third quadrant, both the values will be in negative, and in fourth quadrant, the y value will be in negative and x will be in positive. Okay, this is what was being represented here. So I hope now you are clear. This is also a kind of summarization because you must be knowing this. Now for constructing the graph, you must consider here that, as I was saying, that in case of graphical representation, both on x and y axis, you are representing variable, right? So on x axis, you draw the independent variable, right, on the horizontal axis. Independent variable and dependent variable also, I hope you are familiar, but I'm just telling you in brief that independent variable is the one which is being varied in the experiment. Okay. On the y-axis, you draw the dependent variable, and dependent variable is the one which is being observed. Okay. Okay. So, for example, you are seeing the increase in yield by changing the values of fertilizer. Okay, by providing different amount of fertilizer, what is the change in yield? So amount of fertilizer becomes an independent variable because that is being manipulated here, and the increase in yield becomes your dependent variable which is being observed here. So you will draw it on y-axis, and amount of fertilizer will be on x-axis. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So it is like this in most of the cases, but sometimes neither in some complex situations neither is manipulated, but they are only observed. Okay, so In that case, you will have to test the hypothesis that changes in one variable causes the change in other variable. Okay, so the variable that you think causes the change can be put on the x-axis, and the one which is being changed can be put on the y-axis. So the simple thing is that you have to run a hypothesis and see what is causing the change and what is being observed. So that can be done here. So now coming to the different types of graphical representation, the first type is the histogram. This is again very familiar. The term is familiar to you. This is again drawn by using a set of vertical bars like that of bar diagram, right? So the length of the bar is proportionate to the frequency represented here. But there is a difference between histogram and bar graph, right? In bar graph, as I told you, that the distance between bar should be uniform throughout the diagram, but in case of histogram, there is no gap between the bars. Why? Because in case of histograms are drawn for frequency distribution. So you have classes kind of representation. So these are all continuous representation. Okay. Also, as opposed to bar graph, which is a one-dimensional diagram, histogram is a two-dimensional graph where both the width of the bar and height also changes. So height changes with frequency and width changes with if the classes are of different interval. That is a more complex situation. If the class interval is different, then the width of the bar will also go on increasing. So that is why it is called as a two-dimensional diagram. So as I was telling you, each bar is a rectangle, width representing the class interval and height representing the frequency. And you have to calculate the number of classes, class interval, class limit, midpoint, as I told you earlier. So class intervals are it can be equal or unequal. As I said, if it is equal, then the bar width could be equal, and if it is unequal, then that also width also changes. Okay, so let me show you. So this is a simple data for beak depth for 25 finches. So this is a set of 25 data. So this is an unordered array. What you have to do first, you have to first arrange it in either ascending or descending order, determine the maximum and minimum value, and prepare a frequency table. Okay, so this is a sorted data. So you can see that it is increasing data, and just by looking at this, you can determine the frequency also. So this is called as the simple frequency table, and you can use tally mark method also. So simple, you can draw vertical bars for every frequency. So that is a simple method for drawing a frequency table. So once you have done this, you can next, you can draw a frequency distribution table, where by using Sturge's rule, you can calculate the number of classes. Okay, so you can see here that the number of classes are 7. Then by using the formula for class interval, you can determine the interval, and then simply you can put your values, make the classes and determine the frequency for each class. And in this way, very easily you can make a frequency distribution table with classes for your data. Now this kind of data can be very easily represented with the help of a histogram. So this is a histogram which is made for beak depth for these finches. You can see the classes 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, right? And for each of these classes, so there is no gaps between the histogram bars. Why? Because it is a continuous form of data which is there. Also the this represent, you can see here like this, the height of the bar represent the frequency, the width of the bar represent the class interval, and there is no gaps between the histogram. Again, I would tell you that histograms can be made manually also, and very easily you can draw histogram using Excel. Okay. And Excel give you a lot of different ways also. Once you use it, it will suggest you also to what are the best ways to represent this particular data. But once you I would recommend to try using Excel to learn how to draw a histogram, right? So it can be very easily drawn using Excel, and manually also you can do. So coming to the second type, which is the frequency polygon. So this graph is constructed by plotting the variables on x and y axis, as in the case of histogram, but the the values, the frequencies are not represented in the form of bars. Okay, but here polygon, you can categorize it as a line graph. Okay, it is a line graph, so each of the values are represented by dots, right? Each of the frequencies are represented by dots, and then with a line you are connecting the dots, so it is a line graph. Also, one of the important points is that here frequency polygon, you can draw it the other way also, but the easier way is to calculate the midpoint, then place the dot at the corresponding midpoint of the data, and then join the the dots with the help of a line graph. So that is why it is slightly different from that of a histogram. No bars here, line graph, and also you are using not the entire class but the midpoint of each class to represent. So this is what I have just now told you. So midpoint of each class is represented by a dot, and then each of the dot is connected by a straight line to get you a frequency polygon. So this is our data for practice. So you can see that the classes are made here, and the frequency for each class is given. So what you have to do is you have to calculate the midpoint of each class. So for 0 to 10, simple lower limit plus upper limit divided by 2. So midpoint is 5. Likewise, you can calculate for each. And in the frequency polygon, you can see that the upper limit of each of class is represented here, and you are, so this is 0 to 10 and this is 5. So midpoint of each is used to mark the frequency points, and then with the scale you can connect each of these dots to make a frequency polygon. Okay, it is a very simple way to represent, but in most of the cases you will be encountering such kind of graphs, line graphs. You must have drawn it yourself also while performing practical. So one of the very easy to draw, easy very frequently used graph to represent the data. Next is third is frequency curve. So the frequency curve is very similar to frequency polygon, but the difference is that the frequency curve, it has a very smooth form. Okay, like you draw it with a free hand, right? So as I told you, histogram. So one thing I also want to add here, that frequency polygon can also be, complemented with histogram. That is, you can on the same graph you can draw a histogram with frequency polygon, where you can get the entire class also and can see the midpoints also. So that also is a way of representation. Yeah, so frequency curve, as I was telling you that you must have seen such freehand curves for representing the normal distribution of individuals in a large population. So whenever you see a bell-shaped curve, all of you must have seen a bell-shaped curve. What is that? That is a frequency curve. Okay, so the difference between frequency polygon and frequency curve is that frequency polygon is a much defined, drawn using a straight line, but frequency curve, it is a freehand drawing, and mostly it is used for representing the population frequency curve for most of the statistical data. So this is an example of frequency curve. You must have seen such frequency curves. So this is an example of this type of graphical representation. So for most of the biological characters, the frequency distribution, if it is a symmetrical bell-shaped curve, it is called as a normal curve. And you will be getting introduced to normal curve and what are the various ways into which that curve can be used to draw important information. So the how to draw such kind of curve. So same data that I showed you for frequency polygon. So here also you have to calculate the midpoint, and then the only difference that you can see here is that you are just joining the midpoint with freehand. Okay, so much more smooth curve that you obtain by joining the midpoint of each class, that is called as a frequency curve, mostly used for representing the population frequency. Okay, so you can see here also. So such kind of as I was saying that softwares like Excel, Google Sheet, they can be very easily used to make graphical representations like histogram, frequency curve, frequency polygon. All these you can make by using such data. Next is cumulative frequency curve. Cumulative frequency curve, I'm sure that this is not very familiar term. This is also called as ogive curve. So this is a graph which is made when you are concerned more about the number of observations that fall below a certain value or fall above a certain value, right? Rather than actual frequencies, you are more concerned about, you know, a limit, like what are the values that fall below this limit and what are the values that fall above this limit. So for plotting such kind of curve, you require another value which is called as cumulative frequency. Cumulative frequency is obtained by, it is just a frequency which is obtained by adding frequencies of all the preceding classes. Okay, that is what is cumulative frequency. So for making a cumulative frequency curve, there are two methods for making this, less than method and a more than method. So less than method is used for plotting a rising curve by starting with the upper limit of classes and adding all the subsequent frequencies. I will tell you how to do it. And in more than method, a declining curve is made, which is used by starting with the lower limit of the classes and adding all the subsequent frequencies. Okay, so less than method for starting with the upper limit of the class and then adding all the frequency, and more than, which starts with the lower limit and then added all the subsequent frequencies. Okay, so we'll stick to the same data. It is a very simple data. So here we'll prepare a table. So I will explain this table to you. So this is the normal classes, their frequencies. So for less than method, we start with the upper limit of each class, and then we'll go on calculating the cumulative frequency. So here we have to see how many values are there which is less than 10, and less than the upper limit. So how many values are there which is less than 10? 3, and only 3, because rest all are more than 10. Then next would be 20. How many values are there which are more than 20? So 9 plus 3, 12. In likewise manner, the values more than 30, 3 plus 9 plus 15, values more than 40, the 4 frequencies. So these are called as cumulative frequencies, 12, 27, 57. These are the addition of all the subsequent classes. 50, and so in this manner you calculate the cumulative frequency for less than values. For more than method, you start with the lower limit of every class. So for first class, the lower limit is 0, right? So how many values are there which is more than 0, right? All values are there which, right, all the frequencies fall more than 0 only. How many are there which is more than 10? So you exclude 3, and then, right, more than 10. More than 20, so you will have to exclude 9 and 3. More than 30, you will have to exclude these 3, and so on. So with the help of this method, you have calculated the less than cumulative frequency, less than method and more than method cumulative frequencies, right? Now in next step, you draw two curves one for less than method and one for more than method. So you can see that less than method is the rising curve. So because see, it go on rising, है ना? So rising curve, and more than method is the declining curve, right? So simply just draw these two curves and then superimpose these two to determine the cumulative frequency curve. Okay, so you can see that this is the cumulative frequency curve where the less than and the more than curves are coinciding at a particular point. Okay, so this is how you draw a cumulative frequency curve, and this is a very good method for determining the how many values fall above a particular limit, or how many values are below a particular limit. Okay, so these are the four different types of graphical representation, that is histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curve, and cumulative frequency. So coming to the advantages of graphical representation, simple method for visually representing data, easy to compare, it shows the trends, right? And it also lets you know about the relationship which is not so apparent, but to a limited extent only. What are the limitations? It is not it gives you a approximate idea, but for accurate ideas you have to calculate the different statistical measure. All values are not always represented, because if you are represent a particular class, so then each data point is not there. Few characteristics are depicted on the graph, and sometimes just by looking at the trend or tendency, you may get, if you are not very careful in interpreting, then it might give you misleading information. So this is a ready reckoner for what a type of, as I was telling you, what type of graph can be used for what type of data. So if you have a discrete data, you can make bar chart, pie chart, pictograms, stem plots. For comparative, you can draw a pair of pie charts, or you can also draw component, which means divided bar diagram, percentage divided by bar diagram, right? If you have continuous data, then you can draw histograms, pair of histograms, or stem plots. And if you have paired data, you want to do a correlation analysis, then you can make a scatter graph. Scatter graph is a graph where you have a scatter of different data points, the x and y variable. Depending upon the x and y variable, you get a scatter, and depending upon the way the scatter is moving, you can get inference about whether it is a positive correlation or a negative correlation. So yes, there are various platforms and softwares which are available. Some of the simple ones are MS Excel, Google Sheet, and complex packages are SPSS, Sigma Plot, ggplot are packages. So in the upcoming lectures, I'm sure you will be introduced to various softwares and platforms that can be used for drawing various diagrams and graphs. That would be much more informative. These are some of the references that I have used. Thank you very much for listening to me. You can contact me at the given mail ID. And I express my gratitude to my principal madam, Professor Redma Chopra, for all the support and encouragement. I also acknowledge the efforts of our students for in the process of teaching this paper. And I'm very grateful to the organizers of Zakir Hussain Tele College for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. So
Thank you,
if
ma'am.
you have any queries,
Hello.
I'm open to queries.
Thank you
Yes,
very much.
yes.
It was very
Am I?
enlightening lecture, and I believe that it must be a very great learning experience for our participants. So now the session is open for the question and answer session. I request our
Yes.
participants, they can write their queries in the chat box, and they can message me personally, or they can also write on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I have got one question on my personal message, and it says that, ma'am, you were showing uh, three or four different types of bar diagram. So how do we decide that which type of bar diagram is appropriate for any data set?
Yes. So the different type of bar diagrams, it depends upon the complexity of the data. If you have a simpler data, you can use a simple bar diagram. But if you have a very complex data with different variables and each variable having different components, then obviously you will go for like a stacked bar diagram or divided bar diagram, which helps you to reduce the complexity of the data and represent it in a much more simpler manner. Okay. So depending upon the complexity of the data, you can decide whether to use a simpler diagram or a diagram which will concise or summarize your data much more in a simpler manner.
Right. Thank you. Uh, then one another question is that you showed a histogram and then bar diagram. Can we not use the same data to represent a bar diagram instead of histogram?
No,
And
because histogram is used for continuous data, and bar diagram is mostly used for discrete data, that too, which is a single just frequency distribution is there. But histogram is a diagram which is used for continuous data where you have the entire class intervals which are there, and there is no gap between the data. I mean, continuous data where you can understand that it is continuous 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. So there is no gap between the data. So that data cannot be represented in the form of a bar diagram because it has spaces, and a bar is only to represent the frequency of the variable.
okay, so we have got one question from this chat box also, ma'am. In which type of experimental data we can use the cumulative frequency curve? That is written in the chat box. You
Frequency
can read that.
curve is mostly for frequency curve data.
Yes.
For frequency curve, you can mostly the data which is as I was telling you that for the population data which is used for representing a population entirely, that is the most suitable data for frequency curve because it gives you an idea about the distribution of the variable within the population, whether it is a normal distribution or it is a symmetrical or asymmetrical distribution. So that also is a point that you can obtain while drawing a frequency curve. So it is most suitable for drawing the or representing the data of a population. Yeah.
You. So there can be participants self and ask their questions if they have.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so thank you very much, ma'am. And I would like to add some more points about the representation of data. I think you provided a very strong foundation on data representation, and there are much more advances in data analytics and presentation. That is our main goal to organize this event, and there would be few other sessions which will be completely focusing on data visualization, and data visualization is very important part of data handling, because when you are representing your data in some graph and images, it always has some appeal and it is easy to understand also. And now we have got two more questions, ma'am. I think I can read it for you.
Okay.
Ma'am, in percentage graph, like you represented rainfall pattern, it cannot be inferred that which year has highest rainfall. then why you are using.
Which one? Is it the percentage bar divided bar diagram?
Yes, ma'am, percentage graph.
Yeah, because yes, I think Achal, right? Achal. So yes, it cannot clearly. I said that in one glance you cannot get the year which is showing the maximum rainfall, but it is a very good way to compare the component, the relative component within the within each compared with the percentage bar diagram. So when your aim is to compare the relative component within the within a variable, then percentage bar diagram gives you a much clearer picture. So depending upon your aim, that is what I was telling you, ki what is your aim, that helps you to decide which type of graph you want to draw, right? And sometimes it is a combination of different graphs by which you want to represent your data, so that much more inferences can be drawn from it.
Okay. So there is one more
I
question
hope it was
from
clear, Anchal.
Megha on graph which is more suitable entity to
Mhm.
be represented on standard deviation or standard error.
I think it is the standard deviation, because it tells you the the dispersion which is there within the data. So standard and but it is both of these have their own relevance. So when you are talking about the dispersion within the data set, then standard deviation becomes standard error is more relevant when you are comparing different sampling unit within the population. Then standard error is a way to represent the dispersion within the sampling unit. So both of these have their own relevance.
Yes, yes, true. I would like to add more points. What is her question on that? So it depends on the objective, that what is your objective. If you are studying at a population level, of course, you should include standard error. If you are having some experiment, then it's best to use standard deviation. There is nothing wrong about any of these two error bars. It only depends your objective and the that type of data sets. Yeah, so there
Yes,
is
yes,
one participant who have raised the hand, Shadman. If you wish to interact with our speaker, please unmute yourself.
yes, yes.
Shadman, would you like to say something? Shadman Nahid, I think you can unmute yourself if you wish to speak something. Okay, so it was by mistake. So that's all right. So apart from that, I would like to show you some slides from my side also, which will provide some more information on the data representation, though they are some very advanced kind of presentation type, and this requires a lot of expertise, but still it is so nice that you can at least have a little understanding of these things, because after having some fundamental information on the data presentation, probably this provide you an idea that how can you approach to these uh, way of representation. And as you know that this word present word is driven by a lot of data sets. We have a lot of data. It's only our objective and the research design which allow you to use these data and present in different ways. So in this series, I want to show you few pictures and just would like to take the names of these images what are they. So, let me share my screen. Though it's visible on YouTube, but it might not be visible on this meeting. So just allow me. Please confirm if my screen is visible. Is my screen visible to everyone? Screen is visible. Okay, so someone is saying his screen is visible and voice is breaking a lot. Okay, but still I'll try to show some images, and that is the main purpose. So as you can see, this is the first image where you can see the box plot. In the yesterday, we were talking about the lecture where we were discussing dispersion, measures of dispersion, and where we were discussing about the distribution of data set. And in that lecture, we were talking about box plot and distribution of data into 4 different segments. So here you can see this is a way of representation of your data set if it contains multiple data point, and this can be an easy representation and understanding of so many components from the same variable. So in this image, this is a box plot. You can see this is a feed type where you can see these are the different components, and they all have so many data points, and the data points are of weight, and this can be represented through these rectangles where these horizontal lines represents the median. These lines at the end, they represents the first and third quartile, whereas these lines which are representing at the end, they are representing the first and fourth quartile. Sorry, this is the first quartile, this is the second, this is the third quartile and fourth quartile. So that is how this data can be represented, and it can be compared uh, for different components within the um, data set. And these dots are representing the outliers. And as you may find that these diagrams are difficult to understand, but when you wish to draw this, it can be so simple if you are using these advanced softwares, for example R or maybe Python. So they are providing you a very easy solution to prepare these kind of diagrams. So I'm moving to a slide where you can see that this is showing a geographical distribution. It may seem that it is very difficult to prepare, but nowadays even the Excel and spreadsheet data can also be used to draw such kind of diagram if you have information about the regions. So you can write the name on one column and then the values on the right column, and then it can prepare a geographical map for the given data, showing the and this density of the color is representing the value that is at high concentration and low concentration. Then similarly, there are even much more complicated graphical representation which are available, and these can be prepared using advanced softwares like R. Then you can have this heat map plot. This diagram is known by the name of heat map plot, and it is showing the correlation matrix where you can have where you can compare different variables. As you can see, these are the variable, and this is also showing the same list of variable, and you can see that what are the correlation between different variable. So if you read these variables, for example this one variable, this two variable, second variable, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, they can be compared among themselves. by using this heat map plot, and this density of the color is showing the um, strongness of the correlation. Then at the same time, this is again another way to represent the data, which is again showing the correlation. And in this case, you can see that there are three different species which are represented through different colors, and one wish to uh, compare this data set, that is between bill length and body mass. So this comparison between bill length and body mass for three different species can be compared within the same graph. And this can also be represented by using SPSS, or maybe using R software, or even advanced tools. So this is another method to represent the correlation, where again you can see these different densities within the box are showing the intensity of the factor. And that is how this correlation can be represented. So these are just few examples which give an idea that it's just the objective which help you to decide that which kind of analysis is useful for your data set. So that is what I wanted to convey with everyone, and I hope uh, it is going to be useful for you in the next lecture, because from the next classes and onward, we are talking about correlation and regression, and in the coming lecture, we will totally dedicate our time to software handling for the data analytics. So with these words, now I would like to propose a vote of thanks. So I would like to propose a vote of thanks. So on behalf of the organizing committee, I take this opportunity to express my heartful thanks to our speaker of the day, Dr. Shweta Sharma from Maitreyi College, uh, University of Delhi. I also thank our principal sir, Professor Narendra Singh, whose guidance and constant support made this program possible. To the IQAC convener, Professor P.K. Shishodia, and the bursar of the college, Professor Mukesh Jain, thank you for your constant support and guidance. I also acknowledge the constant effort of the convener of Skill Development Learning Center, Dr. Saima, and fellow colleague, Professor Dheeraj Singh, who ensured the smooth conduct of the session. A special thank to all the participants who have registered and shown such enthusiastic engagement. Your presence is what gives meaningful to this course. Last but not the least, thank you all once again for being with us today. We look forward to continued learning, collaboration, and success throughout the course. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I request all the participants to leave the
Thank
meeting.
you.